Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Kabir Considers. In this video, I'm going to react to the coldest cities in America. Like, this should be interesting because, you know, I've been in a few cold places in my life. Like, the coldest place I've ever been was probably Sheffield, and it was around November time. And we went out on a night out, so we went to a club. I wasn't appropriately dressed. I was wearing like a thin jacket and a t-shirt, and it was like maybe -4 or something like that. It was freezing, but you know, that is probably nothing compared to some of the temperatures you guys see in America, like Alaska, things like that. So yeah, this should be fun. So let's do it.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel, or congratulations for
This has to be Alaska, surely.
finding us, I guess. I don't know if congratulations is the right response. But anyway, I'm just glad you're here. I've got an idea. Why don't we say goodbye to winter and celebrate spring with a video about the coldest cities in the United States? Every winter, like some sort of ritual, all the news outlets will update us on the coldest places around the country, like almost every single night. They follow up the report with some kind of lame joke, like the female host will say, "You wouldn't catch me outside without an electric jacket and those kind of temperatures." Then the male host says, "Or a dead tauntaun to sleep in." And for those of you under the age of 30, that was a Star Wars reference. Ask your parents. There were some really great space movies from the late 70s and early 80s, and they made some
I love how this guy just goes off on tangents.
more in the late 90s and early 2000s, and it got a little gross. I'll never understand how someone thought Jar Jar Binks was a good idea. Anyway, as you can imagine, most of these cities are going to be in the northern section of the country, you know, where it's cold. Yeah, so that's what this kind of going to be focused on. And for those of you in Arizona and Louisiana that feel some sort of slight,
Why is it that because the northern USA, like he said, is the coldest part, and the north of the UK, the north of England, is the coldest part? What makes the north part of a country colder than the south, typically? Like, I'd love to know.
don't worry, my next video will be about places you sweat a lot. So why don't you get in your Snuggie and watch my top 10 coldest cities in the United States. Number 10, Norfolk, Nebraska. Norfolk has just about 25,000 residents, and its coldest month is January, with an average temperature of about 12 degrees Fahrenheit. In the winter of 1989, it dropped to -30 degrees. That was a record for the state. Now, the city receives an annual snowfall of about 30 inches, and that's why the city almost floods every single year during the spring. So, if you're moving to Norfolk, you're gonna need some snowshoes and a canoe. Norfolk is also the boyhood home of Johnny Carson, the guy who did The Tonight Show. Again, if you're under 30, ask your parents about him. At least it was his home from age 8 until he graduated high school and actually hitchhiked all the way to Hollywood. Most people think you need to be in the mountains for it to get really, really cold. As this video will show,
He hitchhiked from Norfolk, Nebraska to Hollywood. That must have been several different rides.
you, the Great Plains of this country get a little crisp. Number 9, Helena, Montana. Now this one I can attest to. I was in Montana City, which is just outside of Helena, back in February of 1989, and I can tell you, I have never felt that kind of cold in my life. It was horrible. They also had a train derailment that week, and people were talking about going up to see it. We went up there for like 2 minutes, turned around, and came back. It was that cold.
Jeez.
I don't know if the cold had anything to do with the derailment, but kind of a sight to see for about 2 minutes. Anyway, Helena is Montana's state capital with just under 30,000 residents. These residents experience an average winter temperature of 12 degrees Fahrenheit.
Hold on a minute. So 12 degrees Fahrenheit to Celsius is, oh goodness me, -11.
Residents here have to deal with 45 inches of snow annually, and on February 2nd, 1996, they hit their record low, -39 degrees Fahrenheit. That's crazy. Here's a not so fun fact. The city is currently under a serious flood watch because of all the melting snow from the winter. I hope it works out for them.
-12 degrees Celsius. I can't even imagine how cold. Like...
Number 8, Burlington, Vermont. If you're sitting around City Hall Park in Burlington, Vermont, and you get a serious hankering for french fries with gravy, good news. You can get to the Canadian border in just about an hour. That alone should tell you how cold it can get in Burlington. I mean, they call Canada the Great White North for a reason, and it has nothing to do with the demographics of the country. Burlington is a small city of about 42,000 residents that endure an average temperature of about 11 degrees during the winter months. The city sees about 80 inches of snow annually, and that's a steady amount of shoveling. Burlington is also where Bernie Sanders started his political career. He was the mayor of Burlington from 1981 to 1989. Now he's the state senator.
80 inches of snow.
Number 7, Waterloo, Iowa. Waterloo is home to about 70,000 residents that are bored most of the time. Iowa is a notoriously boring state, but if you consider shoveling snow fun, I have some really good news for you. This place will be a lot of fun most of the winter. During the coldest months, residents aren't too surprised when it gets to the average of 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Thankfully, the average snowfall here is only 35 inches. That's slightly higher than the average for Midwestern states, but it's definitely not the worst in the country. What gets Waterloo on this list above others is the wind chill. It gets bad here. In 2016, they had a really harsh winter followed by serious flooding. Saw videos of it. It was rough.
That's the thing. All that snow, when it melts, all that water's got to go somewhere, right?
Number 6, Lacrosse, Wisconsin. Lacrosse has a population of about 50,000 residents and is located on the east side of the Mississippi River. Right across the way is Minnesota, another cold place. The city has an average temperature of about 9 degrees during the coldest months. That's single digits. A single digit average. That's the kind of number that while you're experiencing that type of cold, you start questioning your life choices. You know, you're sitting there scraping ice off your window in the cold, thinking to yourself the whole time, did I steal the Pope's funny hat in a past life or something? What did I do to deserve to be this cold? You're shaking, trying to scrape that stuff off. The lowest temperature ever recorded in Lacrosse was January 1951 when the temperature reached -37.
Dude, for me to live in a place like that, I mean, do you acclimatize? Maybe you get used to it after a while, but before you get used to it, oh man.
Number 5, Marquette, Michigan. Marquette is a small city of about 20,000 residents. During the winter, the average temperatures dip down to about 5 degrees with a record low temperature of -36 degrees Fahrenheit. Wow. Marquette is one of the snowiest cities in the country and it receives 150 inches annually. That means if you have a regulation basketball hoop and backboard, the whole thing, in the street in front of your house, they get enough snow to bury it upright. They also have a dog sled race every year. You gotta have some serious snow if you're having dog sled races, right? It starts downtown Marquette, and here's a side note to that. They have one of the most beautiful main streets in America, which is called Washington Street there, but it's lined with older, well-maintained buildings leading to the lake. It's like a postcard.
Sounds like somewhere to potentially visit if you can handle the cold.
Number 4, Aberdeen, South Dakota. Aberdeen has just under 30,000 residents and is located right between the Standing Rock Reservation and the Lake Traverse Reservation. Now, if Standing Rock sounds familiar, they gained some exposure during the pipeline protests of 2016. But being so close to North Dakota, Aberdeen gets very cold. The average temperature in the winter is just 1 degree Fahrenheit. In February of 1994, it got ugly. The city experienced the record low temperature of -45 degrees Fahrenheit. -45 degrees. Hold on a second. I have to make a personal note to myself. Never go to Aberdeen, South Dakota. Ever. Number 3, Fargo, North Dakota. If you ever saw the movie Fargo, you already know this place is insanely cold. I mentioned in one of my videos recently that I would be visiting Fargo in February, and a subscriber from Fargo told me not to because I would see how cold it is and never go back. Fargo is the biggest city in North Dakota. Just about 120,000 residents call Fargo home. The average temperature during the coldest months is 0 degrees. And with the wind at 11 miles per hour, it seems more like -17 degrees. Here's a not so fun fact.
That wind chill would be brutal. Like when you first leave your house in the morning and you just feel the wind.
Due to a massive amount of snowfall over the last few weeks from a winter storm, the city is currently in a state of emergency declared by Mayor Mahoney since the snow is melting and the Red River is flooding. Get your canoe ready, everyone.
Oh dear.
Number 2, Grand Forks, North Dakota. Staying in North Dakota, we have the not-so-warm city of Grand Forks, the type of place you don't need to go hunting because you could walk around the woods long enough and find some poor animal that's frozen solid. Grand Forks is the 3rd largest city in North Dakota with over 57,000 residents, and it borders Minnesota. The city gets pretty cold in the winter, with the average temperature in the coldest months being -3 degrees Fahrenheit. However, since the city can get pretty windy, the average wind being about 10 miles an hour, it can feel as cold as minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the type of weather that makes you wish global warming.
Isn't it crazy how animals can just, survive like normal in these temperatures? Like, yeah, I know they're covered in fur, but still, it's not that much material. And, you could see these deer look fine.
Was true. And stop typing. We don't need to hear your global warming is a hoax stuff. NASA and Chevron have said it's real. NASA because they have to, and Chevron, well, because they have to. They lost a court case and had to admit their findings. And number 1, Fairbanks, Alaska. It took a while for Alaska to get on this list, and I honestly thought it would be all over it, but no, at least it's number 1. Fairbanks is located in eastern Alaska, right off the Tanana River. The city is home to about 32,000 residents, and the average load during the coldest months of the year is minus 17 degrees Fahrenheit, and the city sees about 65 inches of snowfall every single year. That's the type of cold that hurts when you pee. Yes, that's a real thing, by the way. Fairbanks is the coldest city in the United States. Hands down. Sure, you can find some...
Why would it hurt when you pee unless the stream freezes as it's escaping? Oh man, that would be horrible.
Small towns in the upper portion of Alaska that might be a little bit colder, but Fairbanks is the coldest city in the United States. And it's pretty much one of the most secluded cities. I mean, there's little small towns, but it's pretty much the furthest city away from any other major cities in the United States. Right out there in the middle of nowhere. Here's a fun fact. During the winter months, the Tanana River will freeze and get up to 43 inches thick. That's a thick river. And you know what else is real? In extreme cold, your blood vessels will narrow because of what's called vasoconstriction. When this occurs, your body is trying to redirect blood flow to your essential organs to heat your core. And because blood flow to your extremities is consequently restricted, your fingers shrink a bit. That is why nobody gives anyone the finger in Fairbanks. With that little finger, it just doesn't seem as serious. There's other things that shrink too in extreme cold, but we won't get into that. This is a family channel. All right, that's my top 10 coldest cities in the United States. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you got some information out of it. Don't forget all the links below.
Very interesting indeed. The more I learn about Alaska, the more I want to visit. Just like hearing that city, Fairbanks, just being so isolated, yet it's a city full of people. That sounds really cool to me. Like, I don't know, if anyone who's been to Alaska, let me know what it's like there. I'd love to know. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.